was a Juneteenth to forget for reigning Roland Garros champion Coco Gauff, who fell in her first match since winning her second major title. I'll discuss whether we should actually be concerned for Coco and her Wimbledon prospects, as well as Jannik Sinner, who lost too, and talk about Arena Sabalenka's apology to Coco for that whole press conference ordeal. Hello, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my next update video. Unfortunately, Coco Gauff's Berlin Miu Miu fit was short-lived as the American lost her opening round match in Germany 6-3, 6-3 to 49th ranked Wang Xinyu of China. Wang is a pretty streaky player. Her career high best is 32 in the world, but she was great on grass as she hits flat, has a really strong serve, and I feel like this surface is her best. She beat Ons in qualifying in Berlin, and she dominated Daria Kasatkina like 3-2 in the first round, although Kasatkina hasn't been playing that well, but regardless. And also, Wang defeated Jessica Pegula at Wimbledon last year. So she is used to getting these top scalps over good players on grass. Again, it's her best surface. Now, credit must be given to Wang for this match, as she played a great one. She was pretty dominant on her serve, only faced one break point the entire match, and she was broken just that one time. She was clean from the ground too, as the Chinese woman finished with 16 winners to just 11 unforced errors. Now, it was not a good day from Coco at all. She hit just 8 winners to 25 unforced errors. And Coco almost hit as many double faults as she did winners, and she only hit 1 ace, so just not great stats from her at all. And the double faults were an issue, particularly when she served to stay in the opening set, and she just really did not apply scoreboard pressure to her opponent at all. The serve was obviously an issue for Coco. It's her biggest Achilles heel, to be honest, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think too, an aspect of Coco's game that is honestly not talked about enough is her return. As when her return is good, she seems to win most, if not all, of her matches. But I've noticed on these faster surfaces and on today that she struggles to make a lot of returns back in play. And I feel like that's a major reason why she was more successful on the clay this time around, because she was making a lot more returns again in play. And it makes sense because she has more time on her tape back to wind up and whatnot. Meanwhile, on the grass and on the faster hard court surfaces, opponents can kind of rush Gauff right off the bat from the serve to the forehand wing of Coco's. I think that Coco also just goes for a little bit too much on her return, and she needs to kind of find a healthy balance of both being aggressive on the return on these faster surfaces, but also just not doing too much and gifting opponents like these free points from return misses. We also saw that Coco just wasn't as confident from her forehand from the ground, and we saw that through the slicing of the forehand. And I know that the sliced forehand is a little bit more of an effective weapon on grass as the ball kind of skids through the court a little bit more, but Coco's sliced forehand really was not it at all, and it was not a pretty sight to see at all. She also slipped a few times, and that's understandable as this is just her first grass court match of the entire season, and she did not really seem all that there mentally in this match, which also is very understandable considering the quick turnaround from winning Roland Garros not even 2 weeks ago. Now, I'm not really reading too much into this loss itself. Again, I feel like her losing really wasn't that surprising, and I would have been really more surprised if Coco went on to make the semifinals, because again, the turnaround from winning RG was just too quick. As Coco, as soon as she won Roland Garros, she was working even though she wasn't even on the court. She did a whole press tour in New York and whatnot, and she also spent some time with her boyfriend in ATL eating pancakes and cantaloupe and whatnot. And I don't think it's a problem for her to do all that, but if she is going to do all that and like make a little bit of a mini vacation out of it and go on that press tour, I think playing Berlin was not a smart idea. And again, the fact that she lost this match is not that bad, but the fact that she even played the match, I'm not a fan of. She should have skipped this tournament. I think that Alcaraz, he didn't do the press tour type of thing. He just kind of vacationed for a couple of days in Ibiza and then went back to training, and that's why he was more successful in Queens, and that's why he's currently in the quarterfinals. Coco, again, meanwhile, it seemed like she didn't have that much time to prepare. She kind of got to Berlin maybe a day or two before the tournament actually started, for her at least. So definitely not the most ideal prep for this type of tournament. I really think Coco should have just withdrawn from Berlin and entered Bad Homburg late as a wild card, which starts next week. But she probably, I think the main reason why she went to Berlin is to show off the Miu Miu fit. But then it kind of went to waste because she only wore it for one match and at a WTA 500 nonetheless. I think she really should have saved it for another 1,000, maybe in the Asian swing for Beijing, Wuhan, or she should have wore it at the WTA finals. It's unfortunate that it went to waste too, because it was a really good fit. I like the contrast too with the all gray shoes. Again, rest in peace, fly high to that Miu Miu fit, but that's why I kind of wore this getup to kind of, pay my respect to the Miu Miu fit the best I could. I'm trying to emulate it the best I can. Y'all can't see it, but I kind of cropped this tank a little bit, but maybe it's best y'all don't see it. But anyways, again, I think she made a big mistake in even playing this tournament to begin with. I think she should have really just given herself an extra week of rest. And really, I am a bit concerned because of this result. I think she could have benefited both mentally and physically from having that week and having an extra week to kind of relax and have more time at home with her family and friends and her man. Now she's in Europe. I don't know if she goes back home for a little bit before heading to England for Wimbledon. I don't know, but she doesn't have that much rest as Wimbledon starts in about a week and a half from now. Coco, she's also a big confidence player, so going into Wimbledon with this disappointing straight sets loss definitely, I think, could implant more doubt within her. I think it might have aided her better to play at Wimbledon without even playing a single match on grass because of the whole confidence aspect coming off of winning a whole slam. Now the confidence is hit a little bit, not a whole lot, because again, I even think she didn't have that much of a high expectations coming in for her playing this event. But it's really overall a tough situation because I think Gauff is the type of player who needs some type of match rep on grass. She's not a Serena, not a Djokovic, to where she can just come in Wimbledon not playing a single match on grass and go all the way. She is not that comfortable on the surface yet at all to do that. Talking about Coco's Wimbledon prospects, I think that Coco was struggling before the clay. She wasn't performing her best necessarily, and she did well at the United Cup, but her form again was so-so until she hit Madrid. And the serve and the double faults were a big issue, and I can see those being issues for her honestly for much of the rest of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if she continued to struggle on that front. Also, as I mentioned too, the return could rear its ugly head and cause problems for her as well. I think the serve aspect isn't bad for her or as bad for her on clay because she knows that her second serve isn't as attackable on that surface as she can rely to on her defense and movement to get herself out of trouble. Gauff will always, I think, have greater difficulty on the grass and not just on the faster surfaces period, because the movement, which is one of her biggest assets, isn't nearly as much of a factor as it is on the clay. Simple as that. When Coco's first serve is on, she can for sure get easy and routine service holds on the grass especially, but her serve just has not been that solid and consistent match in and match out yet. And I think the forehand also, I keep mentioning this, it will become more of an issue for Coco. She isn't totally out of the trenches. Her forehand has come a long way, but it is still susceptible to breaking down under pressure and against the bigger hitters, especially in these faster surfaces. And we saw today against Wang, she was framing a little bit more on that forehand side. I think it will take her a few more years before she wins Wimbledon, to be honest. That's the only slam where she has yet to make it past the fourth round. And she's really in a similar vein of Iga in this, of grass being her least favorite surface. She won't win Wimbledon unless she improves her serve and her return mindset on these faster surfaces. But I think it'll come eventually. It'll just take some time. Let me know in the comments whether you believe we shouldn't read too much into this Berlin loss and whether you think Coco will go deep at Wimbledon this year. Now, the woman who Coco defeated at that Roland Garros final, Aryna Sabalenka, she definitely was public enemy number one especially within the Black community after her interesting press conference comments following her loss. Basically, Sabalenka downplayed Coco's performance and said the result was more about her playing poorly rather than Coco playing all that great. And then Sabalenka also ruffled a few feathers when she said that she believed Iga would have beaten Coco if Iga had beaten Aryna in that semifinal at Roland Garros. Now, according to the AP, Aryna made a statement and she also revealed that she apologized to Coco in a written letter. Aryna said, "That was just completely unprofessional of me. I let my emotions get get the better of me. I absolutely regret what I said back then. You know, we all make mistakes. I'm just a human being who is still learning in life. I think we all have those days when we lose control. But what I also want to say is that I wrote to Coco afterward, not immediately, but recently. Yeah, I'm glad that Arena privately apologized to Coco because they seem to have a really solid relationship before this whole thing, and I can definitely see Coco looking at her a little bit sideways. So I think it's definitely good on Arena's end to kind of smooth things out with Coco a little bit, because if she hadn't, then Coco would have even more of a chip on her shoulder to beat Arena again the next time they played. Sabalenka, she did win her opening round match in Berlin. She defeated Rebecca Masarova 6-2, 7-6, and that match, it was postponed. It was supposed to finish yesterday, but Masarova complained of the court being a little bit too wet, and the tournament umpire sided with Masarova, which Sabalenka was not happy about, but it didn't matter in the end as Sabalenka came through. That match was actually really tough on paper. Masarova had her chances to really send this into a third set, so a great effort from Sabalenka to get at least a match win under her belt on grass before Wimbledon. Now, things are not going to get easier for Arena as she now faces Elena Rybakina in the quarterfinals. Rybakina, she defeated Katerina Siniakova 6-4, 7-6 on today. Sabalenka, I think, will be the slight favorite. She leads the head-to-head 6-4, and they've kind of been alternating whoever wins and loses the past few matches. And Rybakina, she won the last meeting at the WTA Finals round-robin stage last year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rybakina won this match because she does have more match reps on the grass. Even aside from Berlin, she played Queens, where I believe she lost in the quarterfinals to Tatiana Maria, the eventual champion. So it's kind of nip and tuck. I don't know who's going to win this one, to be honest. It's hard for me to pick, but I might slightly side with Rybakina, to be honest. We also have another blockbuster quarterfinal between Ons Jabeur and Marketa Vondrousova. That will be a rematch of the 2023 Wimbledon final, which, of course, Vondrousova won. Ons entered the main draw as a lucky loser, and she's gotten some good wins, including a 1-3 beatdown over Jasmine Paolini. I don't really know what's up with Paolini and her kind of gifting these straightforward wins to allegedly washed players, but got to give credit to Jabeur, though. She played a great match, and Vondrousova, she deserves her credit, too. She got some really great wins thus far in Germany, beating Madison Keys in straight sets, followed by a hard-fought 3-set victory over Princess Diana Schneider. If Vondrousova can stay healthy, she can for sure be a big dark horse for Wimbledon. I can see her go deep there. Amanda Anisimova, she's into the quarterfinals, and she faces Ludmila Samsonova, who's coming off a couple of really long 3-set wins. First, she beat Naomi Osaka, and then she saved a couple match points over defending champion, last year's champion, Jessica Pegula. And then last but not least, Paula Badosa, she faces Xinyu Wang. And Paula, she's looked good thus far, has yet to drop a set. She dominated Eva Lees in the opening round before defeating American Emma Navarro 7-6, 6-3 in the second round. Now, looking at the men's action, the biggest result of the day was world number 1 Jannik Sinner suffering his first loss to a man not named Carlos Alcaraz since Andrei Rublev in August of 2024. He fell to Alexander Bublik 3-6, 6-3, 6-4 in the second round of Halle. Jannik also hadn't lost a match to a player ranked outside the top 20 since Dusan Lajovic in Cincinnati Open 2023. So this was really a big result as Bublik is ranked 45th in the world. Now, these two did play recently at Roland Garros, in fact, in the quarterfinals, where Sinner took pretty comfortably in straight sets, but I knew this was going to be a tougher ask for him as grass is by far Bublik's best surface. And he beat Sinner en route to winning Halle in 2023, although Jannik did retire down 5-7, love 2, due to an ab injury. Sinner was the defending Halle champion coming into this one, and he looked well on his way to make the quarterfinals again. He didn't face a single break point in the opening set, and he had 3 break points in the opening game of set number 2. But Bublik did well to save them all, and I think that was really the biggest turning point of the match. And I noticed that Alexander, he raised his level another notch after saving those break points, and he was even better from the ground since then. Really, Bublik just outplayed Sinner from the ground. He finished with 36 winners to 25 unforced errors compared to Jannik's 30 to 25 winner to unforced error ratio. And also, Bublik was just simply superior on serve. He hit 15 aces to 6 double faults, and he was better than Jannik in every department on the serve except for the double faults. Now, does this result cause for concern for Sinner's Wimbledon prospects? Not really, to be honest. I think he's still really great on grass. He proved that in making the semifinals at Wimbledon in 2023. I think he also made it in 2022 as well. No, he didn't make the semifinals in 2022, but he nearly beat Novak Djokovic, the eventual champion, in the quarterfinals that year. So he has what it takes to go all the way at Wimbledon. I think last year he didn't go as far. He lost in the quarterfinals due to him not feeling 100%. So I'm not really reading too much into this result. Again, Bublik played really well, and he proved that he can beat literally anyone when he's on fire, especially on the grass. And Andy Roddick, he said that grass is Jannik's least favorite surface, which I strongly disagree with, to be honest. I still think that's clay for Jannik. And it's hard because Jannik, he literally just made Roland Garros final, really was a point away again multiple times from winning Roland Garros. But still, I think he's more comfortable on the grass. He proved that too in winning Halle last year. So I think despite this loss, grass is probably his second favorite surface, and he's for sure going to be a top 3 Wimbledon title contender. And I think also best of 5 is going to be a different animal. I don't know if this were Wimbledon, I don't know if Bublik comes through and beats Jannik in best of 5. Reading over Jannik's comments after the loss, he said, "I think I had my chances. I served well in the second set. I was in the rally in the third set, and then I missed my backhand. But I felt that only 2 or 3 points went Sasha's way today, and that was what made the difference in the end. But I came here, I tried everything, and after the defeat at Roland Garros, I knew right away. So I'm relatively satisfied despite everything. 2 matches before Wimbledon. Of course, if there were more matches, it would certainly be better, but it's fine. I need to regenerate mentally and physically now. It takes a little time, and then, logically, I'll analyze it. I think everything will be fine at Wimbledon. To be honest, it was more physical here. Mentally, I was good in the first round, but you can't expect every day to be the same, so you have to accept that, and yeah, it's fine." Yeah, you heard it from the man himself. He's not that concerned, and neither am I about his Wimbledon prospects. Now, looking at the other men remaining in Halle in the quarterfinal lineup, Bublik now takes on Czech Thomas Mahach, and then Thomas Martin Echeverry. He will face another Russian after defeating Andrei Rublev in a tight 7-6 in the third set match. He plays now Karen Khachanov, who defeated Felix Auger-Aliassime in 3 sets. American Alex Michelsen, who is now officially Stefanos Tsitsipas' daddy. He is 3-0 against the Greekman. He plays Daniil Medvedev. And then Flavio Cobolli is looking to avenge his countryman, Lorenzo Sonego, who fell to Zverev in a tight 7-6 in the third set match. But I think it's going to be a tough ask for Cobolli as he's coming off back-to-back wins, 7-6 in the third, first over Fonseca and then Denis Shapovalov. Looking over at London, Carlos Alcaraz, he nearly suffered the same fate as Jannik Sinner, but he pulled off really an impressive 6-4, 6-7, 7-5 win over his compatriot Jaime Munar. This match was 3 hours and 23 minutes long, and it was Carlos's longest best of 3 match of the season. And he even wrote himself, "Is this grass or clay?" That's how physical and much of a grind it was for him out there. Munar, he played great. He played a great match, giving him all his credit. He had a 4-2 lead in the third set. I thought he was going to take this one, but full credit to Carlos for staying mentally tough enough to fight it off and fight back, especially after letting 2 match points slip in the second set tiebreaker. That's just a huge effort, a very impressive win for Carlos, especially coming off Roland Garros, and not to mention, too, winning Monte Carlo and Rome. Up next for Alcaraz in the quarterfinals is Frenchman Arthur Renaconnec, who defeated Riley Opelka, and then Holger Rune takes on Roberto Bautista Agut. Yuri Lehechka, who defeated Gabriel Diallo, faces off against Jacob Fernley now, and then American Brandon Nakashima faces against Jack Draper. Now, probably the biggest story of the day that's not results related is Petra Kvitova announcing that she will be hanging up her racket probably soon. She revealed on social media that the US Open will likely be her last ever professional tournament. She said, "As with all phases in life, there comes a day that it is time for a new chapter, and that time for me has come now. I therefore want to share with you that 2025 is my last season on tour as a professional. I am excited and very much looking forward to soaking the beauty of playing the championships, Wimbledon one more time, a place that holds the most cherished memories in my career for me. And while I am not entirely sure yet what my hard court swing in the US will look like, I am intending to finish my active playing career at the US Open in New York later this summer." I'm surprised that Petra just didn't call it a career at Wimbledon, as she, of course, won there twice before, but I respect her decision to kind of finish it out and try to end it playing at the US Open. So hopefully her health will be behind her to where she can finish there in New York. Petra gave birth to her son, Petr, last summer, and she returned to action. She returned to the tour this February at the Austin 250. This thing's getting too high. Anyways, I kind of knew that this was coming, this kind of Clijsters 2020 type of comeback, no shade. As Petra, she won just one match in 6 tournaments, and she even said herself that she wasn't sure that she would return, and it was kind of like a last-minute decision for her to kind of give it one last go. And even though this comeback wasn't very successful, I'm glad that she was able to finish on her own terms and have her son at least watch her play, even though he won't remember it, just to like have that swan song farewell type of moment for her, I think is always good. So props to her. I think that she will be a Hall of Famer for sure as being a 2-time major champion and then a former world number 2. She's an Australian Open finalist, and that she even said herself that making the finals in Australia was more meaningful to her than winning Wimbledon twice, because she did suffer that nasty home invasion where she was stabbed in her hand, and just the fact that she came back and played at that high level despite that traumatic incident doesn't get talked about enough. I think she did deserve that #1 ranking at some point in her career. She won't have that to her credit, but still, it's been a great career for the Czech woman. So I wish her all the best or whatever comes for her after this year. Rounding things out and talking about the biggest story of the day on yesterday, of course, the mixed doubles madness of the new format and all the team entries were announced, or at least the team entries thus far were announced. And reading them off, we have Emma Navarro and Jannik Sinner, Xinyu Wang and Jack Draper, Jessica Pegula, Tommy Paul, Jasmine Paolini and Lorenzo Musetti, Elena Rybakina and Taylor Fritz, Mira Andreeva and Daniil Medvedev, Madison Keys and Francis Tiafoe, Arina Sabalenka and Grigor Dimitrov, Iga Swiatek and Casper Ruud, Paula Badosa and Stefano Tsitsipas, Emma Raducanu and Carlos Alcaraz, Bencic and Zverev, Olga Danilovic and Novak Djokovic, Taylor Townsend and Ben Shelton, Sara Irani and Andrea Vavasori, and Naomi Osaka and Nick Kyrgios. Definitely the most exciting names or pairing for me would be, of course, Raducanu and Alcaraz. I think the Carlos and Emma shippers are kind of responsible for that, especially the fake tweets. Shout out to Vic on X/Twitter for all those fake tweets kind of manifesting into something at least. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing Townsend and Shelton again. They played at the US Open in mixed doubles in 2023. They brought a lot of flair and energy, so I would really love to see that once again. Now, there is time for other players to enter. Coco Gauff, namely, was not entered thus far, so maybe her and, I don't know, Arthur Feast or even Holger Rune could enter and pair up together if they decide to enter by July 28th. Talking about the format, it's going to be a draw of 16 teams, and then 8 teams will enter due to direct entry based on their combined singles ranking, and then there are going to be 8 wild cards determined by a USTA committee. It's going to be $1 million prize money purse for the mixed doubles champions as a team, and it's going to be best of 3 set matches with short sets to 4 games, no at scoring, tiebreakers at 4 all, and then a 10-match tiebreak in lieu of a third set. Then the championship itself will be best of 3 to 6 games and then a 10-point match tiebreaker in lieu of a third set. All these mixed doubles matches will be played in either Arthur Ashe Stadium or Louis Armstrong, and it will also be featured on ESPN2 for the most part. It seemed like mostly everyone was on board and was pretty excited by all the entries, but there was a little bit of pushback, particularly from Polish doubles player Jan Zielinski. He tweeted, "I guess winning 2 Grand Slams in mixed doubles in 1 year is not enough to get an invitation to the US Open exhibition event. Thanks for taking away the opportunity to compete and making it fair to everyone." Now, I definitely think that this whole format is aimed to low-key push out the traditional doubles players. It's just being blunt. And I understand that the USTA and the US Open want to boost the popularity, but I think they have to have some balance of bringing in more star power while also kind of respecting, the current crop of mixed doubles, like having all these stars come in and kind of push out these players. It kind of is like an invitational, to be totally honest, especially with these wild cards, which I feel will be determined and given out based on who is most popular. I think bare minimum, they've got to at least invite or grant a wild card to the defending champions, Sara Irani and Andrea Vavasori. But even if Irani and Vavasori make it into the tournament and they lose, then they probably will never see another mixed doubles again. Like, I feel like the USTA and the US Open will kind of ice them out for future editions. So it's definitely something that's going to be interesting to look at to see how they're going to determine those wild cards. But it definitely seems very much singles player heavy. But anyways, that's it for this update on today, and let me know your thoughts on Jannik Sinner and Coco Gauff's defeats and whether you think that we should be concerned for them at all for Wimbledon coming up. Also, I'm curious, let me know if y'all still want that best and worst dressed of Roland Garros. I know it's very, very late at this point, but I have it all kind of planned and scripted out. I just need to actually record it. So let me know in the comments if you want it, or if you say, nah, we don't need it at this time, and I can focus on making some other content. Again, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more content coming up. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.